Ladies and gentlemen, here we are, and we no longer have Kellen Moore as our offensive coordinator. Just like we let go of Mike Nolan and added in Dan Quinn, an outside voice with a brand new philosophy on defense, or a new voice more specifically, the offense is getting its tune-up, which is very much so needed. I think that we have reached our ceiling offensively with the Kellen Moore system, and it was a remnant of that Jason Garrett era, which no longer is here anymore. Also, with Doug Newsomire gone, I'm a little bit in a better mood. We're finally going to have a, more West Coast type of offense, which we'll get into the possibilities that we'll have at OC. But before we get started, if you can like the video, that'd be greatly appreciated. Subscribe if you're new and hit the notification bell. Stick around. We got plenty of content coming for you. So, with that being said, we need to have a sit-down conversation of the options the Cowboys have that are realistic. Trust me, there are plenty of other guys that are out there that I would love to have come in and be the offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, from the Shanahan tree, the McVay tree, you name it. The problem is I don't think that's how things are going to go. I think that you might see an in-house promotion or a rare voice coming from the outside. And we'll talk about all the options that have been connected to Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys organization. So sit back, relax, and we're going to get into a list that was done by Blogging the Boys on an article, and a lot of which aligned with what I was doing in my previous research. So let's go ahead and start off with Mike McCarthy calling the plays. Now, when it comes down to it, the biggest reason why it's important that Mike McCarthy calling the plays gets talked about a bit more is because of the stuff that he said during the season. I'm not a fan of the option routes. I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of that. We need to have a specific play sheet for who gets the ball. That's important because it tells me those things are going to be gone. So the option routes, which really killed the Cowboys this year, gone. The other thing, too, is the verbiage. We haven't heard anything about if the verbiage is staying the same, which is a big thing for what we could see. So if you hire someone, or you don't hire anybody, but you're calling the plays and you say, I'm keeping the same verbiage because I want to have the guys feel comfortable in this new scheme. I don't know. I mean, that's a red flag to me, but we'll see how things progress, because I think the biggest thing, too, is personnel. Because remember, when you have a certain guy at the coaching level that Kellen Moore was at, you have a knack for being like, I want this, I want that, or I need these guys to do that. Because when Dan Quinn came here, we saw the effect of the guys they were getting defensively. I think that you getting a different coordinator and getting that Jason Garrett crap out of here, you're going to see something new there. So that is key. Now, let's go over the candidates, because some have a more likely chance, and we need to talk about how they've evolved. Others, they have connections, but not so sure. So let's start off with Brian Schottenheimer, one of the more obvious ones. He currently is a specialist for the Cowboys, and he has advised Kellen Moore and Dan Quinn on trends that he's seen in the league and all that other stuff. Now, him being an offensive coordinator, his most recent stop was in Seattle. So here are a couple of things you want to know about Brian Schottenheimer. Most of the run game that he had built in Seattle was on outside zone runs with some pitches and jet sweeps thrown in. And the key thing here is getting the ball carrier to the edge. The reason why that's important is because Kellen Moore was more so, I'm going to just pound it and ground it on the inside and hope to God it works. The other thing, too, is that he wants to do this stuff earlier so that when you go and try to hit the teams on the inside of the run, in those run lanes on the interior, usually what's happened is they've gotten better, better results there. Now, the other thing, too, is we've also heard that he's used two running backs in the backfield a lot of times, which is key there. And most of the runs have come from under center, with the shotgun runs that we've seen be change of pace, which is a huge, huge thing. We have seen Kellen Moore run out of shotgun so many goddamn times, but there's no incentive to do that because nothing looks different. And then the biggest thing is that the zone and gap blocking schemes and directional rushing, which I said that has been a big component, and the Cowboys haven't had that since Bill Callahan was here in Dallas back in 2014, 2013. That is the type of offense that we want. We want a rushing attack that uses zone runs, and I've said that that's what this team has been missing. Now, that doesn't mean that Brian Schottenheimer is particularly the best, But the biggest thing is you are getting a different rushing attack, and you're going to need new running backs, of course. But his, run DVOA, which is a massive metric, has gotten better over the years. I mean, he's ranked, when he was in Seattle, it was 9th, 12th, and 9th, which is pretty good to say the least. You're at least in that top echelon, but what worries me is, again, it feels like a more experienced Kellen Moore type of scheme. But he's experienced, right? And I think that that's the biggest thing there, is that he has come in, he's been vocal with how he wants the run game done, and that's really the end of that. So let's move on to the next. And I wouldn't be shocked if he's OC, by the way, but he's giving you more of a West Coast type of offense or something akin to that. But let's move on to tight ends coach Lunda Wells. For those that don't know, he's familiar, Mike McCarthy, with Coach Wells. And also, I'm not sure if you knew this, he actually poached him off of the Giants staff in his first year in Dallas. Now, we're hearing word that he has been getting looked at for coordinator positions, and he's really one of the reasons why Dalton Schultz really, and this tight end group, has gotten a lot of praise. So I think that you could see him get a look at, and in terms of what his scheme could be, I think that, again, if Mike McCarthy's calling the plays, you're getting a guy that most likely will utilize the West Coast system as well. Then you have another in-house option, which I don't think that this would be an OC. I think this is more of your QB coach, Scott Tolzien. Now, with Scott Tolzien, I would prefer you hire someone more experienced. However, he's been with Mike McCarthy for a long time. He understands Mike McCarthy's offense, and he's kind of familiar with Dak at this point. But I think this would be fine with me. Scott Tolzien has been here long enough. The key thing, and this is why I think Scott Tolzien being your QB coach would actually be huge, because he's going to be instrumental in helping Dak Prescott move into the West Coast scheme that Mike McCarthy's trying to run. So I don't think Scott Tolzien is going to make that jump. If he does, I would be a bit shocked, because it's kind of like a Kellen Moore 2.0, but again, you're getting a Mike McCarthy West Coast offense with him, but not a fan of that. But QB coach, yeah, I'm okay with that. You're getting a different voice in here that's, different and not a friend of Dak by all means. I think that's the key thing. You want a business relationship. Okay, so we're going to go over some external candidates that have been brought up. One is Brian Leftwich. I'm going to just be honest with you. I don't see that. But the biggest thing is I don't think Brian Leftwich had a good hand in Tampa. Now, the reason this is big here is because he comes from the Bruce Arians scheme, and he's also a very aggressive type of guy when it comes to his play calling, and he wants to stretch the field. I wouldn't mind actually having Brian Leftwich here in Dallas. I think a lot of people I personally think, he got scapegoated the hell out of in Tampa Bay. And I think that Leftwich could come in and be a guy where he gives you a way different scheme and something different. I wouldn't mind that. Again, I like Bruce Arians', if I could say his name, Bruce Arians' type of offense. And I think that would help you moving forward. Another name would be Tom Clemens, the quarterback coach for the Packers. He's a guy that has ties for McCarthy as well. And I think that really the biggest thing there is that he's an older guy. And I think that that's more of the experience type of situation. And I have heard rumblings of his name. But I would put that on the back burner because this is a name that was just named for the sake of being named. Another one is Ben McAdoo. This is a huge favorite too. For those that don't know, listen, him being the head coach of the Giants, throw that out the window, because him as an offensive coordinator, he is a guy that has a relationship with Mike McCarthy. And the biggest reason why he joined the Cowboys last year, by the way, he had the same role that Brian Schottenheimer had, was because it really felt like he was the OC in waiting. It felt like that, and I've talked about that on this channel. And I do think that because Frank Reich was hired in Carolina, because he was Carolina's OC, I don't think he's going to be there anymore. But I think with McAdoo being understanding, and you would get that type of system here again, I think he would be fine. I think that he got a bad rap in Carolina because of the situation. It's kind of like the Brian Leftwich thing. But, yeah, I wouldn't mind a Ben McAdoo hire. And then finally, a guy from the coaching rankings, the Pittsburgh Panthers offense coordinator, Frank Sinetti Jr. He was a guy that was connected with Mike McCarthy with the McCarthy Project. And he actually went to Boston College. The connection is from the Pittsburgh Panthers. And I think that the biggest thing is that you're getting a guy that's coming from the coaching ranks, so you're getting someone that's completely new in terms of, what he's experienced. Now, keep in mind, I do think that while the connections are there, if you were looking to modernize the Cowboys offense into the year of our Lord 2023, he would be your guy. I think that you have other options, but I have to go off of the connections because I don't think they're hiring anybody from your Shanahan tree, which I would love them to go and do, or the Rams. But those are the guys that you want to keep an eye on. So, guys, what do you think? Are these names good to keep in mind? Are there any names that you would throw out? That's pretty much where we're at. By all means, feel free to leave your comments down below, and we'll catch you in the next one. All right, guys? Have a good one. Goodbye.